Friends and enemies, welcome to a special Wednesday edition. These aren't really that special anymore. We do them every week, and if it was up to you, we do it every day. So anyway, it's a Wednesday edition of the show, Canadian Bitcoiners Podcast, brought to you as always by ShakePay, best place to buy and sell, never sell your Bitcoin in Canada. Right now, and I think for like the foreseeable future, I always say right now, but I'm pretty sure it's going to go on for a long time. If you use our promo code to sign up, they'll just give you $30 on your first $100 buy. You can't go wrong. You can pull that out and pay for gas if you're still driving a car, still working. And if gas
that's only what, like 3 liters,
$2 a liter. Yeah. You might be able to get back home if you fill your car with that $30, which is nice. You won't have to leave your car at the gas station. That's always a plus. Shake your phone every day. They funnel you a little bit of a Satoshi allowance there, which you can take off and put to cold storage as much as you want and as often as you want and all that good stuff, up to 1,000 sats a day after 200 days. Pretty good. And of course, the cashback, I should say sats back Visa card. So you use your CAD balance on ShakePay, spend some money on, assorted sort of low time preference or high time preference fiat goods and get a couple of Satoshis back so you don't feel too bad about it and you can sleep at night, hopefully more soundly. Len, it's good to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Joey, especially after that news we got about Russia. How could I not be?
Hey. Red Scare, buddy. We're back. In the green room, we have Pierre Corbin, whose last name I'm probably not pronouncing properly, but
Corbin.
He's Corbin. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah.
Good to see you. He's the creative mind behind the hit film. I want to say hit. You got 6-figure views on YouTube, so that makes it a hit in my eyes. The Great Reset and the Rise of Bitcoin. So Pierre, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. Second of all, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me here. A bit early for me, I'm traveling a lot right now. I'm in Sri Lanka, so I had to get up in the middle of the night.
Colombo?
Yeah, but no, another town, Ella, right in the middle of the island. And but no, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Are you going to Jaffna at all?
Sorry?
Are you going to Jaffna at all?
No time. We're only doing the south of the island because we're only here for 2 weeks.
All right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pierre, you got to tell us. First of all, we'll get into the movie, of course, because that's really the topic du jour. But you are a new face to me, new personality to me. So I want to know, how did you get into Bitcoin? What's the orange pill story?
Yeah. So the first coin I ever bought actually was Ethereum. Not Bitcoin.
Get off the show now.
Did we vet this guy? Oh, you have one job to vet the guest, and you didn't even vet him. He's talking about Ethereum. We spent 30 seconds.
I think every Bitcoiner goes through some mistakes. No, and basically, so I started in 2017, and I was part of this ICO craze that was awesome for a long time, and then very bad. And simply, I kind of even dropped it after a while because, bear market, you're losing money, just focus on work. I was a consultant in tech. And then simply when I saw that this new cycle was going to start, I got back into Bitcoin some more, and this is when I really started being orange pilled, let's say, and started digging deep. And so I quit my job in May because I managed to make enough money. I was a bit tired of not seeing any progress in the direction of crypto and Bitcoin at my job. So I just decided that I'm kind of wasting time if they're not going there at all. So I just decided to quit and go full-time Bitcoin.
Wow.
And so it started with just a few months of trying to figure out what it is I want to do, because it's hard to just go full-time Bitcoin, I guess. One idea to the other. I had a lot of free time, it was summer holiday, summer last year in Europe. And I watched a documentary that I guess Inside Job. And I don't know, just that day I went running the next day, and I thought, okay, maybe I could try and do something, because I always like making, videos and films. And and I just started getting to work.
So this is what compelled you to actually make the documentary, The Great Reset and the Rise of Bitcoin, because this has gotten a lot of traction online. And from what I understand, it's potentially might even get screened at the Bitcoin conference in Miami. At least there's a movement to get it done.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, tell us, like, what really compelled you to do it? Like, how did you learn about this? I mean, there's a lot to do to create a documentary of this nature here, because it's rather long, and there's a lot of information that you included in it. And as Joey said, the production value is pretty good. So
It's
I mean,
tight. It is tight. Yeah, it looks good.
yeah. So give us a little bit more about the background of it. Like, I just want to hear more about it.
So it started really based on an article written by Dylan Leclerc that you may have read. I don't remember the title exactly, but basically it covers the long-term and short-term debt cycles that were presented by Ray Dalio in his video "How the Economic Machine Works," and Dylan Leclerc simply added how Bitcoin could fit in this context, and I found this idea very interesting, and also I found the fact that there is so. I found at least that there's very little information out there, honest information as to what is happening in the economy. So I took a look at what Ray Dalio did, what Dylan Leclerc did about it, and I just thought, okay, maybe what could be interesting would be to write an article that covers this, but looks at actual numbers, where we are today, kind of. Because Ray Dalio's video is from 10 years ago. Dylan Leclerc's article didn't cover much of the actual data. So I just started doing a lot of research. And, as a prior consultant, you're good at research. So I did a lot of research. I downloaded a lot of data, aggregated it. I was also specialized a lot in data visualization, data analytics. So yeah, I just thought I'd put all of this together, and I started writing, and little by little I started thinking, okay, maybe I can just take it a step further, and adding other topics that I thought were important topics to have in such a film. So then, I thought, okay, might as well just go all in on this and just put as much information as I can about it, and also get in touch with some of my friends that are either music composers, professional editors, and so on, to really step up the game and make the best film we can.
I just have one comment, Joey, to make. I watched the video with my wife. It was our date night, and we watched this documentary together. So it's
romantic.
truly, there's a romantic notion behind it. With Valentine's Day coming up, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, watch this documentary on Valentine's Day.
You're gonna be alone on the next Valentine's Day if you pull this out. Listen, babe, this year we're gonna be watching something. We're gonna be talking about the collapse of modern society. Okay, it's gonna be so great. Get the heart-shaped chocolates. You're gonna love it.
But it's true story. I did watch it with her on our date night, so I'll just pass it over to you, Joey. Just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, Pierre. Ignore this sort of foolish commentary from the other panel.
I think
for a second.
Any reason is good to watch it.
Listen, 120,000 people have found a reason to watch it. So, to your credit, I think in Bitcoin, a lot of the times, especially during bear markets, there's this urge from people who don't have the chops. And I sometimes I would include myself in this too. Like Len and I make a show every week. It's sometimes just slow news weeks. And so we still try and make the content, but sometimes there's this urge from people who don't have the chops to put together, aggregate, to use your word, information that they think is valuable to the space. But the problem is that I think they start aggregating, and then what they do is they tie a sloppy knot on it at the end to make this original idea fit the data that they pulled. And this is, I think, a common problem, not just in, articles or films, but also I think in academic papers and other realms where this kind of stuff is prevalent. But to your credit, watching the movie, one of the things I was, sort of impressed by was that you managed to work in, not just basically all my favorite memes from the last year or two, but also the data that makes this stuff stick. And there's a couple of good clips from Dalio videos and good clips from, there's a couple of good Kashkari segments and stuff about the environment and energy use. And, this is, I think, to me, Pierre, something that you could show to somebody who didn't know anything about Bitcoin. Now, was that your intention, or did that kind of just happen organically?
No, it was my intention. The idea was, if I believe in it so much, and I think that everyone around me should pay attention, then I need to try and make it so that the people around me can understand it. And my family, my friends, we all have different backgrounds. We've all done different stuff professionally. I studied finance, then I studied tech. I'm also a developer. So it's it's easier for me to get, but it's not necessary for everyone. Some people first off don't care, yeah, so they'll never try and do the research themselves. So the idea was kind of to try and put this together in a simple way so that, well, I do the research for everyone, yeah. And then yeah, just to try and open it up to as much as possible, not only to my sphere but beyond.
So, question for you in that vein: what feedback did you get during the editing process for the video? What would the what would the review panel say was the weak points of that video? Because, like I said, I think it was pretty good start to finish and pretty concise. More importantly, so what feedback did you get along the way that you made changes on?
So that was a bit tricky as well, because the people that were working with me, they just know nothing about the topic. I mean, the main editor, the first time that I watched the film with him, because the whole process was that I did all the research, found all the clips, found all I did all the graphics and so on, and I did the first editing of the film. And then I passed this on to a friend of mine, professional editor, and he just made it look good, right? And so he worked already with the entire film done. And what he told me the first time he watched was that it's great. It looks like a proper documentary, not just some YouTube video. But I hardly understand any of it. So it's easy to stay locked in your own biases if you're the only person that knows what you're talking about when you're working on something.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, what I was trying to do is, I mean, the film is obviously opinionated, right? It goes in favor. I mean, from the start, right? It goes in favor of Bitcoin. But I just couldn't do anything different, I think, when it comes to that. But at the same time, I stay true to Bitcoiner concepts, right? So keeping this in mind, that I didn't necessarily come up with anything myself, maybe just one point towards the end of the film. I was confident that it all makes sense, So not so much feedback that was helpful in the production of the film directly, apart from the filmmaking technical aspects. But I was confident with the content because I knew it was Bitcoiner content.
As you did this film and you released it, and it's shining a negative light on the European Central Bank and the Federal Reserve and the likes. You must have been making some enemies by doing this. I mean, have you been contacted by anybody? I'm just curious. And if so, could you give some names who may have contacted you? Because I'm sure people may not like the fact that this has been released, and it's not like you're fabricating anything. It's all truthful. You're just basically rehashing information that's out there. So, but I still think along the way you're probably going to make some enemies. I'm just curious if anybody's tapped you on the shoulder and say, let's try to remove this thing, or let's see what we could do to maybe adjust the narrative. Or did anybody contact you?
Well, no, which I kind of hope this day will come. That would be very exciting. But no, I don't know. There's multiple people that mentioned this too, even in the comment section, saying everyone download this film because it will be deplatformed very soon. So which is great also, to see people that find this film so important that they would recommend anyone to download it and have a hard copy of it on their computers. But as of now, no. Maybe if traction grows, it might. I did try, tagging the Fed and the ECB on some of my tweets when I'm just calling off, what they're doing. But I mean, of course, I think they likely have a no-show filter on Twitter if it mentions Bitcoin.
I don't think Christine is answering your tweets there, Pierre. I doubt very much she's going to be hitting you back with the 100 emoji anytime soon. Okay, so let's talk about the content of the film. There's I think a lot of Bitcoiners would agree on the nature of, we'll say, the fiat system, the cash system, and the holes in the way that works. You highlight, in particular, the 1971 Nixon speech where gold redemption was revoked as a possibility for citizens. There's some really good content in that part that I hadn't heard before, these sorts of tape recordings of phone calls. So first of all, I want to know where you got that stuff, and why do you think it's important that people see this? Because like you mentioned, and I think you're right, that this is a good movie for a first-time Bitcoiner. Why is this an important thing in your view for people to see and understand?
Um, so this part in particular was after going through all the technicals. So the first part of the film is, our financial system. What is the data really, right? Then move on to, okay, so we know we're in trouble. So what are these central banks going to do now, right? And then I introduce Bitcoin and simply go into even the technicalities of how it works, just to make it clear for people. And then there's the part where I try to wrap it up. The part that you mentioned in particular was there because Bitcoin is often compared to gold. And I thought it was important to actually do this comparison and have a section that explains how Bitcoin is a better form of money, including better than gold. And for this, some historical context had to be given. And I think the best one is when Nixon in 1971 pretty much screwed the entire world and started a super inflationary period in our history, only by controlling really the exchange of gold in the US and internationally. There was a lot of facts that I didn't know myself before. All these recordings, I thought they were. This was taken from a documentary that already existed, and I found all of this on. I tried to stick to finding all of the clips on YouTube. And in fact, on the website of the film, thegreatresetfilm.com, there's a section where there's all of the sources, and you can even find each of the video sources. So if ever you're interested in some more, you can also find the name of the entire documentary where these extracts were taken from. And so I thought, okay, I can use some of this information there. And I can also just take the full speech of Nixon to also show the comparison, right? And I think it speaks a lot to what's happening today. There's Nixon saying that we decided to do this. We decided to do it in cooperation with,
It's so
other.
bullshit. It's so bullshit.
It's crazy, right? And so I thought that would be very interesting to have the first part where he explains it, then the detailed explanation of what was happening behind, including all of these mic recordings that there were of Nixon talking to different people in his staff, and then go back again to Nixon just adding even more to what bullshit he was just saying in front of all of the world, in fact, and how they decided together to build a new monetary system. So I think that was very important, because you even see it. I think today Erdogan from Turkey announced that they're gonna come up with basically do exactly this, so not allow their citizens to own some gold and force them to sell their gold to the government. Right?
You didn't see that, Len? You didn't see
No.
that?
No.
Turkey,
Yeah.
I think starting this weekend, Pierre, they're incentivizing and coming out with a program to incentivize citizens to sell their gold back to the government for Turkish
History
lira.
repeating itself. It's
Oh
just
man,
incredible.
Exactly.
it's almost unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why it's perfect. But going back into archives, that even in the 70s, this is what they were doing. I could go even before that, right? Because it's just, as you said, history repeating itself. In 1971 wasn't the first time either, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought. Interesting to give this context, because no one realizes that. And if you talk about what Nixon did, the famous what happened in 1971, well, no one gets that, right? It's so completely out of touch for normies.
I got a question to do with your perspective on Bitcoin, because yours might be slightly different than Joy and myself, because we're not in it to the same degree you are. You're living it. You've gotten out of the fiat mining gig, and now you're totally in Bitcoin. And Joy and I are still, unfortunately, doing our fiat mining stuff. Very sad. Yeah. But in terms of Bitcoin, can you picture anything coming out, any sort of news or event that might negatively impact it in the next little while? Could it be potentially a country banning it, or an attack on miners? Like, what do you perceive to be one of the biggest hurdles that could potentially derail Bitcoin in the next little while?
So I try to put this a fair bit of thought into this, and for now it's I think it's difficult to see, because a country banning it, Sure, if it was, big scale, let's say the year's central bank decides to do this and all the Eurozone simply cannot touch it. Yeah. The thing is that it represents so much opportunity for others. And if you get into all these game theory ideas, also such a negative impact for the ECB that I'm not even sure they'd go for it, right?
Mhm.
So banning it, it's kind of the saying that everything is good for Bitcoin, yeah, because down the road that's what happens eventually. So I don't know. It's hard to say because it's been 13 years since Bitcoin was created. Governments since year one have been trying to shut it down, and yet they have never managed to do it. So if I know me as full-time Bitcoiner and have the flexibility of just being wherever I want, if a government decides to ban it and I'm not welcome there anymore, even if it's my home country, too bad, I can just go elsewhere. And that's okay. I mean, I lived most of my life outside of my home country, so for me, that's not a problem, right? But I don't see right now what could actually stop it. There's only good news, and what would be able to kill it, it's hard to say, because I feel like we've already had, and they keep on repeating just the same FUD topics, right?
Mhm.
So unless something new comes, that's unexpected, hard to say. But then that would pretty much be a black swan event.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Habitez-vous en France?
Uh, no. So I lived like 7 years of my life in France. And then I moved to Poland. So like I lived most of my life there, and I lived in other places as well. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then you just dropped the language there again. There.
That was good.
Every,
Yeah.
every guess. He
That's
probably
it.
just looked at. Don't pat him on the back. He
No,
probably
no,
just
just
looked it up.
désolé, je parle un peu
Yeah, for sure.
français.
100%.
No, no.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Right.
that's cereal box French. Anyway, okay, so Pierre, again, sorry about my colleague here. There's one thing, one big element of the film that I think you probably get if you were introducing this to a normie, you would get pushback on two things. One would be the Bitcoin thing in its entirety. I don't think anyone would give you a hard time about the breakdown in 71 and the long-term debt cycles. These are pretty widely accepted ideas, especially the last 2 years. A lot of this stuff has come into the lexicon in a way that 2 years before that no one knew about or talked about. But you do have a pretty big focus on the Great Reset. It's in the title of the film.
Mhm.
And, I'm thinking about my own circles. I have a pretty easy time, like, hot knife through butter kind of stuff, talking about how fiat money is broken. But when you start talking about the Great Reset, you meet, well, that's a conspiracy theory, or that's something that, is, you heard that on Joe Rogan or whatever. What in your view, okay, and I don't want you to spoil the movie, everyone should go watch it, but
Mhm.
what is the Great Reset and why should it be important to people, whether they own Bitcoin or not?
Yeah. So in the film, I try and really focus only on the financial part of it, because I think this is the first layer that concerns everyone. But basically, the Great Reset is a World Economic Forum initiative. That's how they call it. This is basically what inspired the film, and it's based on a book that was written by Charles Schwab, right? Or
Mhm.
Klaus Schwab, yeah, the
Klaus.
founder, and Klaus, the founder of the World Economic Forum. Which I mean, yeah, you can quickly go into the conspiracy theory world, right? But if you research it enough, it's hard not to get there, kind of, because there's just um, it's his agenda. It's his idea of what this great reset be, and it's an idea of what could happen post COVID. And if you think of the great reset in itself, there's a lot of things in it. I try to focus only on the financial part because um, it is clear that we've reached a point in our debt cycles that we're just completely overblown, and valuations are completely out of touch with what's value is and what money actually means, right? We have close to 4 times now. In my film, I mentioned 3.5 times, but now it's closer to 4 times global debt than compared to global GDP, right? So there's a moment where all of this has to reset eventually, right? Now, in the words of the IMF, the European Central Bank, any central bank, and the World Economic Forum, this great reset has to come with, I mean, has to come, that's what they think, with a change in our monetary system. And a part of this is because they are themselves losing touch with it. So if they're capable of resetting this through the creation of CBDCs, then we can let go of our previous currencies, like the US dollar, the way it looks now, and transition to this digital currency that allows them for more control and, all the negative effects of CBDCs, and allow to uh, blow off even more through money printing the debt from the previous system, because the more there is inflation, the more there's a monetary supply available, then the less this debt will be worth compared to this new financial system that is based off new currencies. And so that's the thesis that I try and follow along the film, basically. And the conclusion of that is that the only thing, and this is very close to what Greg Foss always says, is that the only thing that can happen is just print. There's no other option, and their agenda goes in that direction too. So this is why we need to protect ourselves. Yeah.
It's never ending when they go down that path. And you mentioned a few of the no coiners. You mentioned the IMF, the WEF. So there's
isn't the best, like, it still amazes me every time I see that Neil Kashkari clip where the guy's eyes are like so wide they're touching his fucking ears. He's like, oh yeah, no, there's no end. There's no end. Like,
there is,
oh God,
but
get
you
this
touched
guy off the TV.
You touched upon one thing. You mentioned CBDCs, and
Mm.
given what you've learned through the whole process of making this documentary, and even before that, I'd love to know your opinion on that, because Joy and I, we've voiced our opinions on the CBDC. We feel that it's going to potentially come with surveillance and lack of freedom, where you want to spend your own money. So I'm wondering what your thoughts on our CBDCs, and if you could just elaborate a little bit more about it.
So I think, yeah, I believe I think the same you guys think. It's just it's an illusion, I think, and they're gonna sell it based on all of these illusions that, we're in the digital age. We need some digital money, right? And I think that's how they're gonna try and, sell it to people, particularly millennials that love all this stuff, right? And never are they gonna explain, or well, actually, maybe that's not true, because the I forgot what his name is. The second person, basically, after Christine Lagarde from the ECB, an Italian guy, he said out loud, publicly, that they will put expiry dates on the new CBDCs that they will create in the European Union, right? But somehow this is the kind of info that will not trickle down to the people that will want to adopt it and will have to adopt it, right? This won't touch them. But I mean, talk about control right there, right? It's I mean, either you spend your money, either it's gone. Like that's I don't know. That's not money anymore. That's coupons, like the same thing you can get for supermarkets or something, right? So
How do you convince the normie that this is a problem then? Because I think we agree on this. This is obviously a problem, but the number of people that hold Bitcoin, first of all, we're not that many in number, and second of all, we don't have to be convinced. This is a show where oftentimes I find we're preaching to the converted. So what do you say to like your sister, your aunt, your uncle, like, hey, maybe think about this stuff. We got to do something about this before it's too late.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why I try to make the film approachable, so that, and a lot of people are commenting always, they're writing to me on Twitter and so on, just to say this is my new go-to orange pill material, right? So, and that was the objective, basically. But it's a tricky conversation to have, in fact, because you either have 4 hours with that person to like have a deep conversation and explain all of this. Either you don't have this amount of time and a lot of your points will be dismissed. What I try and usually focus on is, first off, just the topic of inflation, because this everyone doesn't necessarily understand, but realizes the impact that it has, and it's easy to make them understand it, right? And then explain what they're saying when they talk about these CBDCs, right? Just exactly this expiry date, because no one hears about it directly, because the media won't talk about it when they mention CBDCs. so just making them aware of this, and if you just use these 2 points very quickly, it's often okay. So yeah, we're fucked. Like what now? Well, there's this thing, orange logo. Yeah,
Along the
yeah.
way,
So
how many
that's
people did you orange pill? You must have orange pilled a bunch of people through.
Gotta be a bunch
And
of
I,
people.
I would
who know
imagine,
now.
you said you're talking about the people that helped edit your video, and there must have been a number of people that you've introduced to your video and they must have looked at Bitcoin in a different light, at least, or maybe exposed to it for the very first time. And through the creation of your video, you must have orange pilled a crap load of people. Do you have a number that you could provide us?
No, yeah, I can't give you a number. I'm not that accurate, but yeah, a bunch. I mean, all the guys that worked on the film for me, I paid all of them in Bitcoin.
Wow.
And
Hey,
they,
okay.
yeah, I mean that was the deal. I said, hey guys, like, do you want to make some Bitcoin? Like, we can work on this project together. And for me, even if they're very close friends, they had to be paid for it. Especially, it was important for me for everyone to be paid in Bitcoin. Um, so yeah, and they just wanted Bitcoin. In fact, even when once the film was done, it was released. Only a week later, we actually had these conversations, and I said, okay, look. At first, I told you that you'd be paid in Bitcoin. Is this okay for you still? Because things can change, of course, right? If they prefer not to. And like, no, yes, send me some Bitcoin. How do I do this? I had to explain how they can get their Bitcoin address from their wallet. So yeah, I think there's a lot of patience always needed, right? Because um, I've been in it since 2017, yeah, so it's 5 years, and the learning curve now is easier than it was even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I just I feel that having the patience to help people from A to Z when it comes to their first purchase, and doing it in a proper approach, kind of not telling them, yeah, go all in straight away. No, like just do one first small trade, buy a small amount, and a week later, kind of observe, get the experience, what it's like, and a week later, if ever, you can either talk to me about it, and we can see if it's a good moment. Although so many people always ask me, Pierre, is it a good moment to buy Bitcoin? I say, well, look, like me, I live completely off Bitcoin. Yeah, I have zero fiat. I mean, I think I'm at like
Wow.
99% Bitcoin. So I only have fiat for my day-to-day expenses, right? So it's hard for me to give a non-biased answer to that question because I just bought Bitcoin whenever I had the chance. Yeah. So it's and if I had more cash now, I'd be buying more, right? So yeah, they ask me, I say, well, me, I just always buy.
That's a good answer. I mean, that's what we do too. There's never a bad time to buy Bitcoin. That's when people ask me, is it a good time? I just say the time is never wrong. It's always, right.
Exactly.
The best time
What do
is
they say?
yesterday.
It's
The
like
second
the
best
whole,
time is today.
yeah, the planting trees
Yeah.
thing, right? These
Yeah.
old proverbs. I just changed the words so they make sense for Bitcoin. Yeah, that's the way to go.
Mhm.
Okay, so Pierre, the movie, I look at the film and I think this is a film that was probably difficult to make because there's so many things happening in Bitcoin all the time, and we talked just today, for example, about Russia, making their currency move toward legalizing and regulating. Len just heard about this Turkey and gold thing. What were the
I got to pull my
struggles?
gold out of my Turkish vaults.
You better head to Turkey tomorrow. You better call your buddy Ergo there
I'll
and
be
tell
in
him.
Istanbul tomorrow morning.
Yeah, make sure you tap it. Make sure it sounds like gold. So the question is, what challenges did you have deciding when to make Final Cut? And I would imagine there was a lot of stuff, right? Because it's like a constant stream of new information about this asset. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was a bit tricky at some points because so I started working on the film in July, right? I started just writing the article and editing at the same time, right? It was a kind of bilateral process, and when there's a bull market, then this is when everything is happening, right? There's new news, new people getting in, more people doing research about it, therefore sharing more information. It's only during a bull market that you're gonna get, clips of Scaramucci talking about Bitcoin, kind of. Yeah. So yeah, there was often this feeling that there's more. I could go back to this extract and like add more info, and it's just eventually you have to, yeah, make choices and accept that there's some stuff you won't be able to cut in there. That's why it was just important to stay with the main concepts and stay with what is known today and likely won't change, right? But definitely, yeah, that's a good point, because there was many times where you're just there scratching your head and wondering, okay, is there time, is there space for me to add something about it? And multiple times I had the chance, or so like the first version of the film that I did was without me talking to the camera.
Come
And
on. What?
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
left
yeah.
that
It was just
even listen, the only reason I stuck around for the whole movie is because of that couch. That couch looks great.
You were in Poland at that time, I believe, right?
I was, yeah, yeah. I was in Poland. I was there. Since the month of June or July, I've been traveling everywhere, and just go back to Poland. Well, next week I'll be in Poland, for example, for 2 weeks before moving on to the next place. And that was in October, and I was in Poland, and it was just a very particular Airbnb. Had a very special style, and I had this couch. I had the couch, and so the entire room was nicely lit. So the idea came, well, maybe to give a more natural flow to the film, we can just get a friend to come here and just record a more interview format where I just talked about everything that was in the film, and then that's one of these opportunities I got to go back and add some stuff, because I had to basically edit all of these clips and add them to what was already there in the film, right? So the kind of, I mean, a lot of work, like really, this is the kind of stuff that forces you to just go back to and just rewatch every minute of your film, rewatch every minute of this interview format, and see where it can fit. And it also opens up the opportunity to add new content. So started in July, but October gave me a chance to have this mid-production content review and addition of new content.
You've immortalized that couch. Just simply from
It's
this.
a great couch, man.
Yeah.
I like
So-
it. That's the first thing I noticed. Wow, this would be a nice couch to have.
Airbnb has to give you some sort of reward as a result of this, because you're giving them a lot of free flash as a result of that. But as for your video itself, isn't it up for some sort of award or something? I believe it's up against a number of different films, and it made the semifinals of some sort of I don't know, tournament. I don't know how to describe it, but
A movie tournament, Len. Come on,
something
it's
like
an
that.
award, it's an
like a
award show. It's not a
Mortal Kombat
tournament.
style
Do
thing.
you call the Emmy Awards a tournament?
No, but this is actually it's up against other ones. I'm not sure if it gets
Jesus.
voted on
Yeah.
or something. Like, yeah, could let us know a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so my thought was that I put a lot of work in making a film. I try and make it as good as possible, and I don't know if so I'm a, let's say, multi-skilled person. Yeah, so like I'm developer. I speak like 5 languages. I good at with data. I can make films. Like so yeah. No. To my level, right? To my level, of course, because I can't get it to 100% finished thing myself. I can just.
I could operate a
the
mouse.
first
Just
part.
letting you know, I'm gonna.
This
I'm
is
good at
the
using a
one
mouse.
thing- This is the one thing needed for all of these skills I just mentioned. so you've got the most
the
important
rudimentary
parts
skill.
already
Yeah,
done,
I'm on my way to greatness.
But what I mean is just that I don't know when is the next time I'll make a film. Maybe never. Although seeing how this one is received and people wanting more and so on. I mean, the channel already got over 2,500 subscribers, which I was hoping for a lot of views. I wasn't necessarily expecting so many subscribers, and this may require some more content to be posted. But the thing is, since I don't know whether at all I'm going to make another film, the idea was to just go all in, and including applying to multiple film festivals. And so far it's been selected to 2. It's been selected to one in Barcelona and one in New York called Oneros. And so this last one, it won actually 2 awards in 2 different categories, as best documentary and best indie film. So awesome! Like, I'd say really excited. Now, it's a lower level festival in the sense that it's not Cannes, it's not Sundance, or but the other competitors, I'd say, other films that were submitted are also of I think high quality, high level, And I'm very happy to have won that. Actually, it's it just confirms the quality of the film, not only from a financial and Bitcoin perspective that I've had before. This one actually confirms that even cinematographically, it's worth something. So it's very satisfying. Yeah, very happy. And with the one in Barcelona, I think at the end of the month we'll know about the next stage. For now, it's just official selection. We'll see if it manages just to get at least up there. I don't know. It's a bigger festival, so I don't know if the same outcome is possible. But again, like just I want to try and push it as far as possible while I'm at it.
Joey, I'm not sure
Glenn,
if you're
we have an
aware.
award-winning filmmaker on the show here.
Oh, that's me too, every week. But apparently, it's up
Really?
against
Nice.
Where in the World is Elizabeth Warren? That's the film that it's going up against. It's hard to actually pinpoint exactly where she is with that jet of hers. So, good luck on having your film go up against that one.
Pierre, what was your like? When I watched that, when I watched the film, I agree. Like I mentioned, it looks polished. I even messaged and again this morning. I'm like, man, like rewatching this is tight. It's like well done. And I'm curious if you have any. This is like a creative question. I'm not a creative guy, but I'm always curious about this kind of stuff. What was your inspo like for that film? Where did you get the idea for like the sort of way the film flows through the graphics? There's like some more sort of parts that are emphasized through different techniques. What did you think about? What films did you think about when you were making yours?
So I think the number one inspiration was Inside Job, simply based off the pace and how information is presented there. Other than that, I don't know. It was a lot of a mishmash of all other documentaries I may have seen in the past, and just kind of going with the flow and as to what I think looks good. I have to say there wasn't necessarily particular styles taken from other documentaries other than just documentaries as a whole, in the format of like how Netflix documentaries can look like, kind of. So it was mostly trying to stay to this kind of neat. A lot of just any kind of animation there is with a black screen, to just make it focused only on the topic itself. And and that's pretty much it. I don't know, trying to keep a certain pace that is fast enough but not too fast, including some small parts where I would add just a sentence of text that appears, which allows to slow down between one topic to another. It slows down the viewer, allows him to process it and get introduced so either get introduced to the next topic or really have a conclusion sentence for a particular topic before moving on, and just trying to pace this down as much as possible. I had some additional shots there, in fact, that were maybe 20 seconds portions where there's only music and images of cities, just day-to-day life kind of, but the editor that worked on it afterwards, he said that it kind of disconnects you from the film, so these were all removed. So there was a lot of also communication with him and also with the other guy that did the music as to how we want to pace it at what point and how it should be. Yeah, very interesting work actually. It's the first time I did this, right? Like I did other videos before that, but never did I do a full feature film, and never did I collaborate this way with another editor and a music producer to really set a vibe like that. And this was very, very cool. That's definitely something that I'd be happy to work on again.
Yeah, no, I sense there's going to be a director's cut coming out in not too distant future.
So I get the 3-hour version. I need more couch. I need more everything.
but let us know a little bit along the way, because in 2017 is where you first entered this space, and I know you mentioned you first bought you got Ethereum. That was one of the first things you bought. Hopefully you sold it by now. But tell us some of the people that influenced you along the way. Name us some of the characters and the people that guided you on the right path to where you are today.
A lot of it for me was just YouTubers that don't focus only on Bitcoin at start, right? There's like this guy, Data Dash is the name of his channel, Nicholas Merton. Like I don't don't follow him anymore. I don't watch his content anymore. Well, because he's not just Bitcoiner. But he was one of the first to actually, particularly during the bear market, to talk about all of mostly Bitcoin and talk about the concepts of inflation, of how Bitcoin works with that. So like it was just a YouTuber that I had started following in 2017 that I had kind of put aside for a while, and then some notifications here and there on YouTube, and just started watching this kind of stuff again. And he was talking about these more financial stuff, and this kind of got me back on track a bit more. Because so yeah, again, I have a master's degree in finance, so it's a topic that I find very interesting, and just giving the right words are what's opened up to this. Then when it came to being fully orange pilled, I think it was originally the works of Plan B, and that's really opened up my mind to what could happen with this. I mean, a lot of my financial decisions before, so around the halving time, the last halving, were based on his way of talking about things, writing about it, and his model that maybe didn't happen as was expected, but still allowed me to put myself in a position where I can quit my job and focus full-time Bitcoin.
No, it's
So
incredible stuff,
yeah.
man. So I guess I don't want to let you go without asking about, and that we didn't know you were living all on Bitcoin, but we know now. And
Mhm.
so you really, Pierre, are like a great example of you're now sort of the product of two extremes, right? You have the master's degree in finance from the fiat realm, fiat academia, fiat money, fiat economics,
Mhm.
and now you're living fully on Bitcoin. Some years later after producing a Bitcoin film. I want to know, and you can say whatever you like here. I don't care if you talk about price, you talk about girlfriends who left you, didn't leave you over this. Doesn't matter. Everything's fair game. But I want to know, along the way, what were your biggest sort of psychological hurdles to moving more toward this end? Because certainly somebody who spends, some 5-figure or 6-figure sum on education, unless you're in Europe, then maybe you don't spend anything. But you spend the time and the energy, you sort of build your identity around this stuff. For you to really leave that behind and come all the way to the other side, there must have been some tough decisions and psychological moments for you. I want to hear about them. What help other people who are thinking about doing the same thing, including
Yeah.
Len, who's been thinking about quitting his job for the last 3 years but can't pull the trigger.
18 years I've been taking that thing. 18. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, and also my degree in finance, this was in Australia, so very costly as well. But yeah, it was like it's the kind of stuff I was always, and I think that's what matters, is just be strong with your own decisions and what you want to really do, right? Because so I was studying finance, yeah, and after hours, so I was working in a restaurant at the same time, and so studying, working double shifts almost daily at a restaurant, and the free time that I had after that was just learning how to code. Yeah, and I got this passion for coding, and um, after graduating, I knew that what I had to do was get a job in development somehow in tech, So I kind of even dropped finance, I was just focused on trying to be a dev as much as possible. But my in between profile allowed me to work on, business related dev stuff. So not purely a developer. All projects I worked on, I was the sole developer, right? And it's also a bit difficult because so my dad had a great corporate career, right? This is what's like a good life means in his eyes, right? And uh, just to say that it's it makes it harder to even have conversations like that, like there's not really anyone you can turn to be like, okay, look, I'm thinking of quitting my job for this reason and that reason, like I would want to focus more on this or that. And in the end, it's just up to you, right? You have to own it and go for it. Now, of course, it's easier in a scenario where I've managed to accumulate 8 years of my previous salary, kind of, right? Like it makes this decision, and that's how I think, in very long term, and but I think very often it's a matter of sitting down, and this I did a lot, sitting down, open like Excel. I love Excel, and just plan, lay out what your plan could look like. What would it be like if you did this, if you did that? Do different scenarios and then just go for it, own it. Yeah.
What's the feedback you're getting over there in Sri Lanka? Because I'm not sure how the Bitcoin scene is in that part of the world. I'm curious if you could give us some insight into how it's developing over there.
Yeah, from my knowledge, it's not developing at all. I mean, I haven't had any conversation with anyone that actually knew anything about it, or that knew that people can have a lifestyle like mine where you just travel, work on developing Bitcoin, even if it's completely for free, and just know about it. Yeah, like that's the conversations I had with people. It's just or there was one other guy that did know about this, but we didn't get deep into a conversation because it was kind of beach party kind of scenario, and he's like, oh yeah, but I don't believe so much in Bitcoin. I think there's other crypto with more future. And I'm like,
turn
okay.
away. Yeah, you gotta get
Oh,
out.
So
my God.
it's like you're not gonna get deep into a conversation at that time, kind of, because you'd be like, wait. Let me list everything out for you. Yeah. So yeah. So no, like I haven't seen much here. In other places of the world, I've seen some more. Um, where I've traveled more recently in Croatia, for example, there was a cash exchange. How do you call it? Like to exchange your euros to dollars and so on.
Yeah,
A counter like this. Well, they were also buying and selling Bitcoin there, which was
Get
very surprising.
lost.
Like
It's
a tiny
growing.
tiny counter, like yeah. This was very surprising for me.
It's growing. It's growing. And I want to talk a little bit also, like very briefly, because we're kind of running out of time. The projects you're developing, you're coding. I want to hear a little bit more about this. I mean, and how it ties into Bitcoin.
So I'm trying to come up with something new now, but I don't know. I have to try and get the right conversations with the right people. I have an idea when it comes to, so when I worked in corporate companies, I mostly worked in financial information systems and automating, different accounting processes, like all this very boring stuff. But one one of the most difficult processes that is a headache for every corporation is a reconciliation process. So it's something that shows that you have your a platform like SAP or Oracle where you manage your accounting, that this information aligns with your actual account, kind of. Yeah.
Right.
And what I would want to try and explore, and I've started working on it on like some hacked through version, is how could such a reconciliation process be improved to help adoption of bigger companies, because there won't be a problem in their accounting because they have access to the blockchain directly in order to handle this accounting and compare, this is what we have in SAP, like all these rows of data of, invoices and so on. And this is what we have in the blockchain and how it connects. Now, ideally, this would also be, a way to gather addresses in, of course, very encrypted way, but gather addresses of different companies, because they would have to keep them on this platform, and be able to have a secondary part that is open source to track any leaked or known government addresses, and anyone would be able to know, well, where this money went, any kind of transaction, whether it's a known address or not, and allow anyone to audit governments. But that's still in the works, and I've spent a lot of time on it already, but there's already some hurdles that I see that make it a bit complicated, and so maybe more to come on that. We'll see. That's
quite an answer for cottage hobby coder, wouldn't you say? Like, that's pretty good.
That's pretty deep. Yeah, trying to form SAP so it's compatible with Bitcoin. Like, it's that's quite a feat if you could manage to do it.
Yeah. Well, we'll try. Like, for now, it's not that complicated. What I think is a bit harder is just the fact that how would companies feel about really having their addresses like this on a database? And I mean, if you think of how they work today, corporations, this is what they do anyway. Yeah. But it's just ideas, stuff in the work, and hopefully I'll be able to push this further in the next few months.
I love that. Pierre, you've been a great guest. I didn't know you got up in the middle of the night for this because we didn't ask where you were.
It's so late over there.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
We started at 3 a.m. here.
Dude, you crushed for a guy who probably just rolled out of bed. Your hair looks great. You know, there's no couch, but it's fine for now, I guess. We'll worry about that another time.
I tried and sleep in an upright position.
Tell people where they can find you, where they can find your movie, all that good stuff. The mic is all yours, my friend.
Yeah, so on Twitter, at Pierre Corbin, right, which is Pierre Corbin, but replace the first two letters. I try and share there a lot of the progress from the film and just in general Bitcoin news. The film can also be found straight away from my Twitter profile, and you can also either Google or go on YouTube and type The Great Reset and the Rise of Bitcoin, or head on to the website, thegreatresetfilm.com, which will give you direct access to the film, every chapter, all of the film in an article format if you prefer reading it, and all of the data sources and extract sources and so on.
Crushed. Yeah. And also Pierre and Len will recommend to you, anonymous listener, that it's a good way to spend your Valentine's Day. I would not make that recommendation, but the other two people here, they would. So
I
definitely
accepted it. I can assure you.
I'm with you, Len.
You guys are fucked. Pierre Corbin, thanks for coming on the show, buddy. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.